Yeah, I'm not doing nothing right now
Yeah, just
of this
change
moment.
this to thoughts in our state. I don't if it doesn't let you post it in here, Revenant, just send it to me on DM anywhere. But all right. Are we at the end of politics 3 minute video? This is Joy. I think Joy Reid. I think she works for. I don't remember she was. I don't know, but anyways.
I don't know. The thing with
No,
this
I'm
video for
familiar
me
with
is
her,
that
I just don't like MSNBC. But I
oh yeah, yeah, you know me. I kind of disregard. I just
yeah.
think it's interesting thing to discuss some of the points. Like I said, we're probably not 100% agree with everything,
Mhm.
but I just think it's a interesting thing. The end point is an interesting thing to discuss at the end
All
of the
right,
day. So that's
let's
why.
listen.
The bigger conversation that we need to have that isn't really just about the Republicans. Like, are we at the end of politics? Because, it is a really brilliant point that the Republican Party exists in a world in which demographically, 6 out of the 7 last presidential elections, they can't win the popular vote. Because demographically and the dispersion of multiracial communities makes it very hard for them to win through conventional politics. The things they want to do, ban abortion, highly unpopular. When you put it through politics, you put it through an election, they can't win that. The things they want to do on guns, 70 some odd percent of Americans don't agree with it. So they have to force these things through anti-democratic means. Voter suppression is the only way. Gerrymandering is the only way they can actually get what they want, because what they want is so unpopular that when you put their ideas through the political process, they can't win. And the frustration and the rage, not being able to ban all immigrants and get all the quote unquote illegals out. You can't do it, right? Because logistically it's impossible. It's also unpopular, ruins businesses in Florida. So if you think about it, all of politics has enraged a certain group of Americans who cannot win through politics. And so what do you go to? You go to autocracy. I'm not sure that Democrats and Biden have an answer to what do you do when something like 40% of American adults have given up on politics and say politics isn't the answer. Give me a strong man who can impose my minority positions on the rest of you, on women. We're going to make women give birth. We're going to make you do it because you don't want to do it, and politics won't allow me to make you do it. How do we solve for this? This is actually a fundamental problem.
Okay, but they're not participating in politics and policy in the same way that Fox News is no longer covering news or politics. It's grievance media. And this takes us back to who was standing behind Donald Trump, who was the mastermind behind his first campaign. It was Steve Bannon, who very clearly said, let's
Steve Bannon is
just
so
break
unhinged.
the system. And that's what they're doing.
Well, and the media hasn't figured it out either. Let's just be honest. The mainstream media, Fox set them aside. They're just the Republican Party's voice.
You mean those of us complaining about Joe Biden's sneakers?
This is what I'm saying. The media can't figure out how to do something other than conventional politics from like the 90s. And so they're like, both sides, both sides, both sides. If we say Donald Trump is corrupt, well, we must cover Hunter Biden equally. If we say, we have to even Steven it, we have to find something to say because we have to say Trump is corrupt. We have to say Trump is violent. So let's talk about the sneakers. Biden is old. They're the same age, but we act as if Biden's age is equal to Donald Trump's threat. And the media hasn't figured out how to do this either. So it's like the whole system is busted. And I honestly don't think the media has an answer for it. I don't think Democrats have an answer. They're going to do a campaign, right? A regular campaign against that.
Hmm. I never actually caught the ending, all things considered. So what are your thoughts on this?
So again, like I said, this is a thing where when you watch these type of videos, A, you have to come in here, you have to come into these things with an open mind, and B, you have to understand there's some level of shilling going on for their side. Obviously, everybody on this panel is liberal
Now to the
slash
dramatic
Democrats,
scene.
whatever you wanna throw them into. So obviously, not very fond of Republicans, Fox News, like they said,
The
and a couple of
Republicans
stuff.
suck. Don't do anything. Just
But
Democrats
but
go on the
uh
speed limit.
but yeah, I just think there was a couple interesting points,
like
and
like
I thought was
the
interesting.
the end of politics and 40% of people giving up on it, even people I talk to, like most black people don't think voting does anything. They don't. We just
Right.
feel
See,
like
that's
it's
the type of stuff
pointless.
I want to talk about that I'm
Okay,
picking
okay,
up from the video. So it all depends on what you pick up from the video.
okay.
So you and me are kind of on the same page. So for me, the interest is more just like I think that's true more than era because you're Canadian, and a lot of Canadians I know, y'all tend to, or at least, or maybe not everybody, I don't know for that for a fact, but the ones I know, they talk about politics a lot. Other countries, politics is a part of like their daily life. They talk about politics all the time. That's like normal conversation. Here, nope.
Mhm.
I guarantee you, there's not many people you walk outside right now. And I don't care if you're in New York, in Texas, in California, in Florida, any of these places. Most average people you meet, they're not discussing politics. Maybe if you bring it up, maybe. But on their own accord, not doing that. And I think a lot of people have given up. I get different reports. I talk to somebody who lives in California all the time. And I try to tell them about political stuff, and they just kind of, they don't know anything that's going on. Seems to be ever. They just run around, go to work, go to school, and go back home. I have no clue what's going on, anything other than that. And I guess that's and sometimes I guess part of my thing, sometimes when I talk about people who don't look at social media and stuff like that, I don't see that as a negative per se. But when you pull I don't look at social media because it's all toxic, it's all bad stuff like that, but then you have no idea what's going on in life ever, I think that's a problem too. I don't think you're any better for doing that either.
That's the con for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're not situationally better just because you decided you weren't going to look at any social media or anything on the internet if you're running around also just clueless and ignorant of what's going on in life.
Yeah.
That's not any better. You're just as bad in a different way. So there's that. So, but yeah, I find it interesting, and also I kind of thought her idea of the media doesn't know what to do, how to cover this stuff anymore, incredibly true.
Yeah.
Maybe not the way she put it per
Legacy and
se, but
established
I think
media, especially independent, like people online who cover this kind of stuff, they gain a lot more notoriety and traction and stuff like that. Fortunately, it's usually you just going to the base that which you agree with, then you kind of just stay
yeah,
in your echo chamber. But like your Tim Pools and your Steven Crowders and your Daily Wires and stuff like that, who cover like current news topics and current events and culture stuff, that's where most people are going to. And I just think that a lot of people on legacy media and news, they're just outdated.
yeah,
They get out watched. They're being beaten in terms of views and all of that stuff too. And I think part of that is because what she said, like they're covering it the exact same way they did in like the 80s and the 90s or the 90s, I think she just said actually. And that might not resonate with the general people anymore. I think older people I find still watch CNN, Fox, and
yeah. They are
NBC and blah
consistent.
blah. But us, I
Yeah,
don't watch that. Um, I remember this one video, I can't remember what it was, where I saw it on CNN and they cut it a certain way. And I remember online, I saw the car literally hit the people. And I'm like, I remember showing my mother, and I'm like, she was like, oh, what the hell? And it's like, they're also kind of dishonest. But I'm sure they have maybe more rules and regulations that they have to follow. So so I'm sure they can't just show someone getting run over on TV like that. Maybe it's
yeah.
like
That's part of it.
a big viewer discretion kind of thing. But the only issue that I had with her was that voting did change a little bit during the pandemic with mail-in voting with the ballots, where it's kind of like weird, kind of like a weird thing because like it's supposed to be a more of an emergency situation, and a lot of people think that that was unconstitutional. I don't have all the information to be able to tell you whether that's right or wrong, but in a lot of ways, the mail-in ballots and voting and stuff, a lot of people feel like that's not right, and you should be able to do that. You should the individual, get up, register, you go vote yourself. Not me come to your like building and be like, hey, you fill out your ballot? Just give it to me, man. I'll go hand it in. Like, I don't think that's cool. I don't think you should be able to do that. I think if you want to vote, you should get your butt up and vote. But I also think that election day should be a day off, a paid day off. That's what I believe. I think
So
that
I guess
first of
for
all, it
me,
should be
it
election
depends
day,
on how
first
you
of
think
all,
about
not
it.
week. Because I don't know if you remember with your latest kind of like election for the House, when it's supposed to be the red wave, when the GOP won, I think the majority of the House by like by a slight minority. Um, fuck, I had a point. I totally lost my train of thought. What the hell was I just saying? I don't know. I lost
Red
it.
wave, election week,
Yeah, I said you should have a week
election day.
off. Oh, in was it? I think it was Arizona where Katie Hobbs was going against Kerry Lake. That took like 3 to 4 days for the result to come out. That's unacceptable. I'm sorry. Unacceptable. It's election day, not week, not season, not month, day. Figure that stuff out. But
So I guess
I've
it all
always
depends
sorry,
on
real
how
quick.
you
I
look at
always
it,
believed that
honestly.
we needed maybe a different system or to change something up or whatever. I want it to be fair. I want it to be reasonable, but uh I would argue, yeah, I definitely see a lot of people just completely give up in politics, especially if you've been on the side that's been losing for so long because Canada's been liberal for so long. And for the most part, even when Donald Trump if I understand was in power, a lot of the institutions and stuff were still more like the DOJ were still mostly run by Democrats. Like, Democrats have been in power for a very long time, but part of that's Bush's fault because he was unhinged, and people don't want to go back to that era of like Bush and Republican warmongering and all that kind of stuff. So, but again,
I mean,
I'm
both
a person that believes in the
both done
uniparty.
that.
I hate both sides. So
I mean, they both done that. I mean, when Obama was in office, he was fighting Republicans and compromising a lot. A lot of people thought he compromised too much. He wasn't as liberal as they wanted him to be, and
he was
he
supposed
was
to be
just
the
kind
great
of like,
change, and he didn't bring the great change that everybody really thought
yeah, he just
that
played the
he was going to
game the
bring.
same as everybody else.
So,
Everybody thought he was going to be different.
sometimes I really wonder if they really are optimistic about being able to change stuff and institute change in the world, and they get in there and they're like, "What the hell is going on?" Or there's just so many, like you say, the checks and balances. There's just so many roadblocks to get to where you want
It
to get
is.
to.
I don't think I say even for some of that, I don't think they realize how many roadblocks they're truthfully or how many things they can do to put something off. How many assemblies do governments have? How many, filibusters and all that stuff? They call that stuff, and that stuff can last weeks, months, where nothing gets done. We just talk about it, but you're talking in circles. Honestly,
And I constantly
if you
hear
think
Congress is
about,
like high school. It's petty. I constantly hear
I
that.
mean, if you think about good or bad, or just some of the most historical presidents, most historical famous, a lot of them things did illegal things to get stuff. Franklin Roosevelt, you go look what he did during the times right before World War II and all that stuff like that. Most of the stuff he did was illegal. He went around Congress and all them back to get stuff pushed through, but he was highly popular. So it just kind of depends on what you do, how you do it, and if it works or not. If you do illegal stuff but people like it, pat on the back, we don't see it. So it just depends. Also, when it comes to voting, ballot, and stuff like that, again, another thing, just depends on how you see it. I can understand the danger of you just being like, we never done it like this before. So that's a problem. If you write it in, how do I know it's gonna get there? How do I know somebody's not gonna change things at the last minute and stuff like that? But the same problem you have with that is the same problem people have with stuff walking into the election. They're in certain areas. If you don't belong in this area, you can't vote. They happen at certain times. On the actual election day, they be filled to the brink, which is why most of us try to vote early. Because you trying to vote on election day, really bad. Not good. There'll be a whole line around stuff. You're gonna be there for 3 or 4 hours. People leave sometimes. They're just like, oh, I didn't expect that. I tried to vote on my lunch break. Your lunch break over. You don't get a chance to vote. You try to go after work. They close the doors at 5 or 6. You're not in that building. They don't want nobody else voting.
Mm.
So that's why it's all these games and all these tactics to get people not to vote, and that's what people talk about too.
Is it
And
slow over
everybody,
there? Like it's slow? Because I find that the process is very fast. 'Cause remember, I've worked as a poll clerk, an advanced poll clerk, and I've also like voted. Where like I've told you last time I went, I left my house and I was back in 5 minutes.
it just
Granted,
honestly
my area
just
is like
depends.
literally a 5 minute walk from me. Like it's not far, and I've always voted with one exception where I have to walk like maybe 8 minutes, like the other way. I've always voted in the same area. Like it's consistent.
Honestly, it just depends on what you're allowed to vote from or who's running it. Honestly, because yeah, I've done voting things that have been very quick, and I've done one last minute thing where I was there for like 2 hours
Jesus
waiting in
Christ.
line.
Even I think I'd go
So
home.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
I'm
I'm
not
saying though.
waiting 2 hours to cast a vote.
It just
I'll go
so it
over.
just depends. So it just depends on what you're trying to do and how you're doing stuff like that. That's why I say and also the losing side always complains. Whoever
Every time.
loses is gonna be like it was unfair.
Yeah.
There's
That's why I
never been
thought
a
it was
fair
unfair when they
election.
like really went at like the right for like thinking the election was stolen, which I don't agree with. I don't think it was stolen. I think they did a good job of scaring people to not vote for Trump, and so Biden won as a result of that. However, that happens literally every election. So I don't know why this one ended up.
That's every tactic. That's every tactic known to man in politics.
Yeah. So
So to me, it ain't no different. The game is played the same, no matter who is in there. It's just that the voter base is just different. That's why it was a bigger deal. Because people who vote for Trump are completely different than anything we've seen in a while.
he's getting a lot
So
more Hispanic and black. Well, actually, no. Let me not misconstrue this. Per my research and observations, and I should do more. It's not necessarily that Trump is gaining black and Hispanic votes, but Democrats are absolutely losing that vote. Like they don't want to vote for them again right now. I don't know what's gonna happen. A lot can change in a year. I think you guys vote like next year around October or November-ish. I believe it is for the presidential election. But he's got and since the mugshot, from what I can see, he's got a lot more black support. And a lot of the reason some of those guys were saying it, some of those guys were more like, for the best of my ability, because I can't find the words right now and I don't want to lose my train of thought, hood. And I guess they're like, nah, like I understand being like framed and getting a mugshot and nah, bro, Trump's my dog type of thing, X, Y, and Z. I saw a lot of videos of that where like a lot of black people were like, no, like this is the guy to vote for, whatever.
I mean,
So
people vote. I mean, it's funny enough. Sexy Red, the artist, she was just talking about liking Trump
is
because
that
Trump
Pound
with
Town?
the yeah.
Okay.
That's funny you refer to her that, but yeah,
No,
she was just talking about doing it for Trump because she was talking about how Trump was letting black men out of jail and because of
Kodak, and
the
was it ASAP
stimulus check.
Rocky he brought back too? Some ASAP
Yeah.
Rocky? Yeah,
So
yeah.
it
A
just
lot of them like appreciated that. That's true.
that's what but it's just funny how a couple of things could swing things a lot in your way. Like that could have just been the most strategic move he did. He'd just be like, huh, I need to do this in the future. I need to keep this in my back pocket. I'm not even accusing him of that. I'm just saying how you could just do stuff like that and it just works. Everything could just be a move on top of another move that benefits you in the future. And the stimulus check thing, people, and also part of the reason why stuff that happens too, is people honest to God just don't know how shit works.
I actually think
Because
government and all of its intermingling subsections and variables are confusing on purpose. Because as much as I understand like the how like parliament and stuff like that over here, every once in a while I get completely thrown for a loop. Like, what even is this? What do they do?
let me say it like this. I'll give you an example. Let's say you took over uh
Sharing it up.
let's say you took over a job right now. You took over a company and it was shit. They were declining. They're in the toilet. Everything about it is bad. They're like, all right, but here now we give you the keys. Good luck. Good luck, nigga. So they give you the keys, and you like, damn, this shit is terrible. But you take it, and you're like, all right, I got like 8 years to do this. So you start building back up the foundation. You start getting things in order. You start fixing the toilets. The restrooms all work now. You start getting everybody nice desks. You start getting people. You start getting new people to come in to get rid of the old people who are toxic. But then after 8 years, they're like, all right, now you got to step down. So you step down, and I come in and take your place, and they give me all the credit for all the shit that you did. They're like, man, when Vincent was in control, we had all those nice jobs and the nice toilet seats and stuff like that, but I didn't do any of that. You did all that, but it didn't pay off until you left. That's the problem with politics sometimes. That's why I say it's hard to do anything because all the work that you did for 8 years, you didn't get none of the credit for. So you had to deal with all the crap, all the bad resources and stuff like that, and you finally kind of flipped it and got it channeling the other way, but you're not getting any credit for that. So They're looking at me and they're like, "Oh man, all the unemployment is starting to go down. People are starting to get jobs again." But you didn't do any. I mean, I didn't do any of that. You did, or you set the foundation of it going to work. But the problem is that's how politics work.
Yeah.
So everything your predecessor did could either go to your thing channeling down or your thing channeling up, depending on what they did.